Thea Stilton, Mouseford Academy, The Secret Invention. Scholastic. Secret password. The brilliant colors of autumn filled the garden at Mouseford Academy. The red and gold leaves on the trees waved gently, moved by a light breeze. What a fabulous day! Professor Rosalind Ply raised her snout and took a deep inhale of the clean, fresh air. A nature walk was just what she needed to find inspiration for the dance class choreography she was creating. Suddenly a deep rumble blasted through the garden, shaking the tree branches and sending the fallen leaves swirling across the ground. Professor Ply looked up and saw a large helicopter with the initials RF painted on the side. It was coming in for a landing. Looks like Ryder and Ruby are back from their vacation, a voice said behind the professor. A melodious voice chimed in, on board their personal helicopter, of course. What a way to travel! The teacher turned to see Nikki and Violet, two students from her dance class, approaching. The mice were carrying two enormous boxes across the garden. Hello, Professor, they called. Professor Ply waved and smiled sweetly. But the mice were headed toward Mouseford's garage. They had their paws full and couldn't stop to chat. When they reached the door, Nikki put down her box and knocked. Secret password, asked someone inside. Nikki groaned. Ugh! What a mouserific pain! But Violet replied confidently, Leonardo da Vinci. And the door opened. A not-so-grand entrance. Meanwhile, the flashy first helicopter had landed in a field next to the academy. Ryder and Ruby got out, along with their mother, Rebecca. She had one last message for her children before they returned to school. Always remember that you two are winners, Rebecca instructed. You were born to be in the spotlight. Ryder sighed and headed toward the academy without a word. But Ruby smacked a kiss on her mother's cheek. Your motto is my motto, Mommy. Ruby walked after her brother, ready to follow her mother's words of wisdom immediately by making a triumphant entrance. She was wearing a beautiful designer outfit created just for her. She was sure that all her friends would shower her with attention, and she couldn't wait for her moment of glory. Here I am, she announced, stopping in the doorway of the academy's main entrance. You'll never guess what happened at the exclusive party we were invited to. Ruby's whiskers twit head as soon as she realized no one was paying any attention to her. Hey! Am I invisible? Ruby sputtered, looking around. The hallways were swarming with students, but no one stopped to give Ruby more than a quick hello. They rushed by her, carrying boxes overflowing with strange equipment. Even Ryder seemed confused by all the activity. There must be something going on that we don't know about, he mumbled. Just then, the brother and sister noticed a huge box of paws coming straight toward them. It took them a moment to figure out it was actually Shin, carrying a giant box of equipment. Ryder walked up to him. Shin? Is that you back there? What's going on? It's like the academy has gone crazier than mice at an all-you-can-eat cheese buffet. Shin craned his neck from behind the box and saw his friend. Wait, you don't remember? We're preparing for the big games competition, the Global Alliance of Mice in Science. Professor Sparkle told us about it last month. Oh, yeah, Ryder said, smacking his forehead. I forgot. Ruby just rolled her eyes. Ugh. Science. What a bore. Shin ignored her and continued. Tomorrow, groups of students from the most prestigious academies all over the world will arrive. They'll be here to present models of their science projects to a panel of famous scientists. The best project wins a MONTI so the team can make a real version. Suddenly, Shin had Ruby's attention. So you're saying that this is some kind of competition? With a prize? She asked. Exactly, Shin said. And we Mouseford students will have to work hard to win. Shin was so busy explaining the competition that he didn't notice motor leaking out of his box and forming a dark punticule by his paws. Sorry, I really have to get going, he said, starting to head off. I need to organize the welcome for the other school's delegates, arrange the award ceremony party, and Shin had slipped on the motor oil. His 4 paws went flying into the air. Whoosh! The Milky Way mice. Shin fell hard on the ground, and the contents of the box spilled everywhere. Ryder bent down to help his friend. But Ruby scurried off in a flash. The only thing she was concerned about was not getting motor oil on her precious outfit. A few minutes later, Ruby strutted into the Lizard Clubroom, home of the club for girl mice at Mouseford. But when she saw that the room was empty, she scowled. How can I be in the spotlight when there's no audience? She thought. She perked up when she heard a voice call her name, Ruby. Finally! Ruby thought. She turned and struck a pose as Alicia came running over to greet her. You're back. Alicia squealed. Ruby froze and her eyes bulged. The head and paws of her friend were sticking out of a round costume covered with bizarre brownish stripes. She looked like an enormous ball. And she wasn't alone. Connie and Zoe were right behind her, dressed the same way. The 3 of them clumsily squeezed around Ruby to say hello. Paws off my outfit. Ruby hissed. This is an exclusive design, though I can't say the same about your horrible outfits. What are you wearing? Well, began Alicia. They're costumes. We're dressed as planets. Professor Ply invited us to dance at the award ceremony for the science competition, Zoe explained. We created a piece called the Milky Way Mice. Seeing the look of disapproval on Ruby's face, Zoe jumped in. The Thea sisters are working on a science project. We didn't want to do a science project like them. They have to compete to win. We'll be performing in front of everyone no matter what. Unfortunately, there are 8 planets and only 4 of us, Alicia chirped. So we were thinking of choosing 4? Ruby interrupted. What are you talking about? There are only 3 of you. Yes, but we made a costume for you, too. Connie said. We're Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, and we saved the best role for you. You'll be the Sioux. Alicia ran over to a box on the floor and took out a round costume covered in gold sequins. It had a zipper on one side and 4 holes for arms and legs. Ruby gasped. You can't possibly think that I would put on such a monstrosity, she cried, but it's for our dance number, Alicia muttered. We're all supposed to orbit around you, and enough. Ruby squeaked. Forget this dance business and come to my room. We have important things to think about. I want to know every last detail about what the Thea sisters have been up to while I was away. Time to experiment. Over in the Mouseford garage, the Thea sisters were hard at work. They had set up their gear in the Handy Mouse workshop. It was one of Pamela's favorite places on campus, and was the perfect spot to work on their Global Alliance of Mice and Science project. Pam was stretched out underneath a strange armchair with wheels. That's it! Pam cried happily as she slid out from under the chair. She got up on her grease-covered paws, but didn't mind one bit. She was right at home surrounded by the nuts and bolts in the workshop. This baby is ready for its first steps. I can't believe it! Nikki said excitedly. After weeks of work, the Mousepod 3000 is complete. The Mousepod 3000 was the girls' nickname for their invention. It was a remote-controlled chair that could move over any kind of terrain. It could even jump over obstacles. What do you mean, complete? Olette objected as she sewed a piece of colorful fabric. We certainly can't present it without a touch of flair. Well, we need to huffy with the lining, mouselets, said Paulina quietly. The big judging day is tomorrow. And we told the headmaster we would organize the welcome party for the other schools, too. We just haven't had the time. Colette sighed. But Violet wasn't concerned. Don't worry, we'll figure it out, she said with a reassuring smile. Just then, someone knocked on the door. Knock, 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 knock. That must be Shin, said Paulina. Just in time. Pam nodded enthusiastically. Shin's technical support was really valuable. He should take the first turn on the Mousepod 3000. The girls were about to ask for the secret password when the door opened and their singing teacher, Professor Arya, appeared. Shin was leaning on her for support, his tail drooping behind him. I've brought your friend, Professor Arya explained, gesturing to Shin's foot. He needed some help walking over from the infirmary. Professor Arya glanced around the workshop and added, I must confess, I was curious to see your project, too. Paulina quickly scurried over to help Shin into a chair. Oh! What happened? Paulina asked, pointing to the bandage on Shin's foot with concern. I sprained my ankle. Shin said sadly. Pam's eyes lit up. Fabumouse! Just what we need. The mice all turned to look at her in surprise. I'm very sorry that you're hurt, Pam explained. But this way we can show how useful our invention is. It can help someone who can't walk. Shin's face brightened. Is that true, Pam? Do you still think I can help? Of course, she replied. The internal controls aren't working yet, so we'll guide you from Paulina's laptop. Put on the helmet and buckle your seatbelt and we're off. The amazing Mousepod 3000. Shin made sure his helmet was secure, settled into the contraption, and buckled the double seat belt. Next, the Thea sisters surrounded him with Paolo. As soon as he was comfortable, Paulina pushed a button on the computer, and the Mousepod 3000 started to rumble and shake. Whirr! The two front wheels lowered, the hood slid forward, and the whole vehicle closed up like an egg. Finally, the wheels began to turn and the Mousepod 3000 started to zigzag around the floor. It's moving! It's moving! Pam shouted. Nikki and Colette were standing closest to the exit. Quick! Pam called to them. Open the door! I can't wait to try this thing outside. Paulina's paws flew as she worked the controls on her laptop and directed the Mousepod 3000 out the open door. The small vehicle ventured onto the academy's paved road, with the Thea sisters jogging close behind. Seeing their invention working perfectly was more exciting than bottomless mozzarella milkshakes. Let's try it on gravel, Pamela urged Paulina. Let's see how it does on a pocky load. You got it. Paulina grinned and sent the Mousepod 3000 down a gravel path. Bump, bump, bump. The Mousepod 3000 bounced over the stones like a kangaroo and started speeding toward a brick wall. Oh no! The Thea sisters had to do something, and fast. Otherwise, the Mousepod 3000 could crash and crumble like grated Parmesan. Pam shouted in alarm, Paulina, engage the propeller. Paulina sprang into action like a mouse-eating monster. She reached for the remote right away and pressed down on a large, red button. But for a moment, the vehicle continued lurching forward. It was still heading right for the wall. Just in time, a spiral-shaped sail popped out of the top, and the Mousepod 3000 lifted into the air and cruised smoothly over the wall. Hooray! Shouted Pam. The others joined in, filled with pride and relief. What a close call, Yay! Hooray! We did it! Paulina wiped her forehead. I was worried for a second there, but look at it go. That's truly mouse-tastic, Professor Arya exclaimed incredulously. Your project flies. Just then, the Mousepod 3000 tilted in the air and landed on its side with an enormous thud. Holy cheese! The friends scurried over to the vehicle as fast as their paws would carry them. Luckily, Shin climbed out of the chair's cockpit. He was a bit cozy, but safe and sound. Phew! Don't worry, Shin, Pam said cheerily. We'll fix those controls. I promise that tomorrow we won't have the same problems with the landing. Shin just straightened his glasses and smiled. That was the most fun ever. The Mousepod 3000 is truly fabumouse. Ruby's plans. Ruby's room, meanwhile, was feeling more like an interrogation zone. Ruby wanted to know everything about the Thea sisters' project, but her friends didn't have enough information to satisfy her. They've been keeping their experiment a secret, Connie tried to explain. All I've heard is that it's some kind of car for the future. And we'll know everything tomorrow anyway, right? Alicia added, wiggling her whiskers. Tomorrow? What do you mean? Ruby demanded. The judging is tomorrow, said Zoe. Each school can enter only 2 projects into the competition, Zoe continued. So a panel of our professors is going to choose which Mouseford projects will represent the academy at the big competition and the Thea sisters' idea is by far the favorite. Alicia blurted out. Ruby's snout wrinkled with annoyance. Her rivals would receive their millionth award, while she would be left standing alone like a ball of moldy mozzarella. What does it matter, anyway? Zoe said, trying to calm her friend. We don't even want to do a science project. Of course not, Ruby scoffed. The only thing I need to know about science is how to buy the latest high-tech device. That gave Ruby an idea. But she needed to be by herself to make it happen. I'm tired. I need to relax, she said, gesturing for her friends to leave.